to Sarah's Storytime. I'm so glad you're back. Now, before we start, do you have a cup of tea and a piece of cake? If not, pause this video and go and get one. Excellent! Now you've got a piece of cake and a cup of tea. Today's story is a timeless classic. It has been told throughout generations. So sit back, grab your tea and enjoy the first part of The Sleeping Beauty. Once there was a king and queen of a faraway country, somewhere in Eastern Europe. The king and queen were happy, but they had no children to take over the kingdom from them. The queen every single day prayed so hard for a child, and one day she was out walking in the gardens. She stopped by a small pond which she loved and prayed that God would give her a child as beautiful as the dawn and as radiant as the sun. A young fairy heard her wish and came to her and said, "God has heard your plea. Within the next 9 months you will have a baby." Sure enough, a few weeks later, the queen discovered that she was pregnant, and 9 months later, the baby came to be born. She was as beautiful as the dawn and as radiant as the sun, and everyone adored her. As such, they named her Aurora. Now, throughout the kingdom, there were 13 fairies. 12 of them were asked to be her godmothers, to bestow gifts upon her. The 13th, however, was not, for everyone thought that she had either died, or if she hadn't died, that she wasn't important anyway, because of the fact that she did not necessarily agree with the practices of the other fairies and preferred to use dark magic. The time came for the christening. The kingdom celebrated as only a kingdom can. There were jugglers in the streets, there were live entertainments, there was food, there were fountains filled with wine, and everybody rejoiced for the christening of baby Aurora. The 12 godmothers came to the christening, and as each lined up to give her gift, the crowd got more and more excited. One gave her beauty, one bestowed upon her creativity, one bestowed upon her a voice like the voice of an angel, and so on and so forth, until 11 of the 12 fairies had given their gifts. Just as the 12th fairy was about to give her gift, a big plume of black smoke billowed up from the middle of the chapel. The evil fairy had arrived. Everybody shrank back in fear. The king and queen did not know what to do, and the evil fairy walked to the cradle. The 12th fairy hid, making sure she was not seen, for she had not given her gift. And the evil fairy looked at the king and queen. "You dare to not invite me to the christening? For that, you, my dears, will pay." The king and queen looked on aghast as the evil fairy drew closer to the cradle. She looked at Aurora, and her face softened ever so slightly. Then the evil smile came back on. My dear princess, you will have all these gifts. You will be able to sing and dance as my sisters, my fellow fairies have given. But on your 16th birthday, when you come of age, you will prick your finger on a spinning wheel and you will die! Cackled the evil fairy. Anyone else got anything to say? She said. No? Time I was off, and though the guards tried to grab her, she disappeared in the same puff of black smoke with which she had entered. The king and queen started to sob. Oh, can nothing be done to save our child? At that, the 12th fairy came forward. I can help. You can remove the curse. Alas, no, that would take all of us, for our power is not as great as hers. However, I can soften it. My dear princess, she said, moving towards the cradle with a look of genuine love. On your 16th birthday, you will not die. No. Yes, you shall prick your finger, but you will fall asleep for 100 years until your prince comes. With that, the fairies left, but the king decided to take matters into his own hands. Lord Chamberlain, he called as the Lord Chamberlain approached, take this message down. From henceforth, all spinning wheels are banned. Anyone caught practicing the art of spinning will be put to death immediately. My daughter will never touch a spinning wheel. The proclamation went out throughout the land. Everywhere, spinning wheels were piled high, burnt to a cinder. Many people lost their livelihoods that day and had to flee to neighbouring countries who knew of the terrible curse that had befallen the princess. Time passed, and the princess grew more lovely every day. She grew up to be a fine princess, skilled in arts and crafts, an adept baker, horse rider. Anything she put her hand to, she excelled at, and the people loved her. Many, however, remembered what had happened on the day of the christening, and as the day of her 16th birthday drew closer, there began to be murmurs. Now, as I explained before, the kingdom knew how to throw a party, and so when her 16th birthday came, the kingdom decided to celebrate, even if it was only for one last time. The streets again were filled with jugglers, people selling their wares, traders carrying sweetmeats, marzipan figurines, so many delights. The princess woke early that morning. She always had a penchant for curiosity, and she loved to explore. Now there was one room that she had never been allowed in, and that was a room high at the top of the tallest tower in the castle. She made up her mind that she was going to find out what was in it on that day. And so she made her way up there. As she opened the door, she saw a little old lady sitting there, spinning on a spinning wheel. Curious as to what it was, for of course she had never seen one, the princess came and asked the old lady, "What is this?" "This, my dear, this is a spinning wheel. Have you never seen one?" "No." "May I?" "But of course," replied the little old lady, offering her a seat. The moment she went to check that the needle was sharp, she pricked her finger. Oh! She began to feel faint and fell back. The little old lady disappeared in a rather dubious puff of black smoke, and the fairy godmothers arrived just in time to see the princess falling asleep. They had, however, prepared long and hard for this day, and so when they had found the king and queen, who of course by now knew what must have happened and were completely distraught again, they proposed a simple yet very effective idea. "Your Majesties," said the fairy, "would it be possible to put the castle in a time vortex? Everyone in the castle be held in time. Nothing would happen until the prince came to awaken your daughter." The king and queen thought for a moment, then nodded. And so the fairies began to weave their spell. Slowly but surely, the whole castle fell under the spell of the time vortex. From the baker getting ready to slap the kitchen boy, to the gardener raking the ground, to the stable hand in the stables just getting a horse ready, the whole castle fell under the spell and became like statues. No one moved, no one spoke. No, the only person that was left breathing in the castle was Princess Aurora, fast asleep on her couch, which she had been moved to. Everywhere, nowhere, there wasn't a sound to be heard. To make doubly sure that the right prince, would get through, the fairies weaved another spell, and briars and thorns began to spring up around the castle to protect it from harm and anything else that might try to get through. As the briars and thorns sprang up, people started to wonder, for the kingdom itself had not fallen asleep, only the castle. The fairy godmothers went out into the world, occasionally disguised, occasionally not. And at that, they started to spread the story of the Sleeping Beauty. Will the princess wake up? Will the prince find and kill the evil fairy? Will I finish telling this story? Find out next time on the legend of the Sleeping Beauty.